All right, peace, everybody. Thanks for joining this quick video about the new DS11. It's got a lot of people stumped. It's got the guru stumped. Hang on, let me mute. Got the guru stumped, you know. But when you really study and read the laws, read these documents line for line, and you stop going to these different makeshift websites, sharing their opinion. Like, I was just watching I just was skimming through YouTube looking for anybody who's got similar content to mine. And I couldn't find anybody that was really giving y'all facts according to how to correct your nationality and get the remedy that you're looking for, so that you're not looked at as a U.S. citizen. Anybody that's in my membership who have done my process, you're going to do this. You're going to correct driver's license. You're going to correct social security cards. You're going to correct that name. It's a whole host of things that you do. You're going to file your power of attorney on the record, showing that you have power of attorney over the illegals. But this video is about the new DS11. This is it. And here it is. And what was noticeable about this DS11 is what? The acts and conditions have changed. It says here, if any of the below mentioned acts or conditions have been performed by or applied to the applicant, a supplementary explanatory statement under oath or affirmation by the applicant should be attached and made a part of this application. So there's no more lining this out. They just want an explanatory statement, right? So what's confusing people, well, now I don't have that part where I can line out specifically who I am and all this. What do I do? Well, you do what the oath says again, as I told you before. The answer is always in that little small print. Yes, this is good information to read, and I suggest you read this whole application. Read it all. But here it is. The oath tells you what to do. Here it is. Let's make it bigger. Let's make this bigger so everybody can see that. It says, I declare under penalty of perjury all of the following. I am a citizen or non-citizen national of the United States. Those are the same. That's a U.S. citizen. Both of these are, because it says non-citizen national of the United States. Okay. They're the same thing. And have not performed any of the acts listed under acts and conditions on page 4 of the instructions of this application unless explanatory statements are attached. So basically it's saying the same thing as the other one. It says include explanatory statements stating who you are. It says you are this unless you do this. Say, I declare the penalty of perjury all the following. I am a citizen or non-citizen national United States unless explanatory statements is attached. Bam. So put your explanatory statements, whatever that might be, and there you go. Still explain to them what you need. If you have to do this form, they still should have some of the old forms. They are taking the old applications, so you can still use the old ones. So I would suggest get the old ones before resorting to this one. But if you don't have a choice, you use this one. I just told you what to do. It's the same process. Now you're just not going to be doing any line outs. You're just providing an explanatory statement now. You see, you got to follow directions. Just give us a supplementary explanatory statement under oath by the applicant should be attached and made a part of this application. What do they mean by under oath or affirmation? When you sign the application, you're saying everything you submit is true and correct, and it's not false, it's not fraudulent. You see? All right. Now, one other thing I was reading through here, and to show you how they're very tricky with these applications, right? It had to do with the information you're providing on this application and Let's see. Let's see. It. Privacy. Right here, it says disclosure. They're giving you disclosure here. They're saying here, right here, providing information on this form is voluntary. Be advised, however, that failure to provide the information requested on this form may cause delays in processing your U.S. application and or could result in refusal or denial of your application. So they're saying you don't have to put information on here. So you don't have to put the social, basically, because it's voluntary, right? So I've been pondering this for months now. Is there a new way to do this application without the social? There is. So me personally, I have come up with a way to do it without the social, but it's going to take you a little bit longer to get that passport. So I don't have a problem putting it on there. Why? Because it's correcting the record of the social. But if I was to not want to put the social on, and I wouldn't per se put it on the application, I would put it into my explanatory statements and say, and give explanations on what that number represents. And is it really me or not? See, I'm just giving hints right now. I'm not going to sit here and tell you or give you exactly what I am doing or will do. I have been pondering this all year, and I finally have created this another way of doing it without the social on the application, just based on this statement right here. Right here. They said it's voluntary. So, but they're saying it's voluntary, but hey, you don't do it. They softly strong arming you into giving it to them. But you can do it without it, but you better be sure you make an explanation on why it's not on there, so that they won't try to get you for fraud. See, what happened in the past, people have not put it on there, and then they sent them an affidavit to fill out saying that they didn't have one. That form is what got them in trouble. So not putting on it per se does not get you in trouble. It's how you respond to their, hey, why is this not on here? If you get challenged, hey, well, this social was given to me at a time, hint, that's as far as I'm going. Was I of legal age to even sign a contract for something like this with all of these ramifications attached to this? I'm just throwing ideas out there at you. You see? But I'm gonna tell you, sometimes people get upset with me because I don't give it all out on Facebook or YouTube or Facebook. No, I'm not. You got to come into my private circle to get that information. Why? Because that tells me you're serious about what you're doing. People that are in my private circle, I've done a year class and they're still they're staying in it because they know I'm always going in and redoing things. If you go and watch all of these other videos out there that people are doing, they're trying to catch up to me. And I watch them because no one was talking about explanatory statements before. There was only one guy who was talking about it. One guy. Yeah. I don't endorse anybody else. Everybody else is kind of trying to watch his work, going between his work and my work, and trying to catch up. That's the only difference. Now, what's funny about this acts and conditions also is this. It says, if any of the below mentioned acts and conditions have been performed by applied to the applicant, a supplementary explanatory statement under oath affirmation by the applicant should be attached and made a part of this application. So it's saying, I have not been convicted. So if you have not been convicted of any of these problems, you need to have an explanatory statement saying they voted in reverse to trick you. I have not been convicted. You haven't. So if you're not a felon, have these problems you need to have in it. That means that everybody filling out this application, no matter if they're trying to be a national or not, need to have an explanatory statement. Simple and plain. You see? They wrote it in reverse. They wrote it trickery. All right, peace, everybody. Till next time. It's time for you to live out your purpose. It's not for me to decide what your purpose is. It's for me to just tell you, go for your purpose. Everyone has purpose. Oh, no, I can't think of nothing. No, the reason why you can't think of nothing because your mind is so convoluted with all of the polluted information that you received from the day you was born that it's covering up those treasures, that inheritance that God had for you. That's why I said it's already there. It's just you can't see it because you're looking at what man showed you. As soon as you peel that back, you'll see it. But it takes putting forth God first for you to see it. Then you start opening, wow, I could do this. I could do that. It's like a miracle. Once I get ideas, my mind is motivated on ideas, stuff just pop. My favorite technique to make stuff pop is once I get that first idea, move. Stop playing. Too many of y'all playing. Y'all call it planning. I call it playing. Planning and playing seem to be right in the same spelling categories. Move around a few words. I call it playing. Yeah, planning is good in some circumstances, but sometimes you get an idea, you just got to move on it. That's why Christ said, be like these children, and then you can enter the kingdom of heaven. Read that scripture and that kind of like, how would he curse a tree that wasn't bearing fruit, but it wasn't supposed to be bearing fruit? Now, when I heard Reverend Ike preach on it, he said, well, anything that doesn't produces any fruit, what's the use for it? He went to the tree to get the fruit. There was no fruit. And he said, may no one get fruit from you. So let's look in our life. How many times, or apply it to yourself? Maybe you're the tree. Maybe it's the message in that is that you're the tree that is supposed to bear fruit, but all you have is leaves. All you have is, what are leaves? You keep, the leaves weren't edible. He was looking for the fruit. Are you just a person who just stands there and just look pretty, look handsome, but you're not bearing any fruit? You're not producing anything of value. And what I mean by of value, are you producing anything value for yourself, for self-improvement? Because in order to improve anything, you have to improve yourself. The first job that you have is to improve yourself, to make yourself better for yourself so that you can be better for the world. Sometimes you're going to find yourselves in a situation where you feel like you're being done wrong, but actually you're being done right because it's setting you up for the bigger opportunity. So always keep your integrity. Always. Never let your integrity go by the wayside because integrity is all you got. Your reputation is all you got. And yes, being truthful and honorable will cause you to lose something short term only. And you lost that because it was protecting you for something bigger. And from that, I got lifelong connections in that community. Sometimes we talk, hey, Akeem, what's up? What you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You make connections. People who know my reputation, they call me, hey, this guy, he's dependable. And that's what you want to be. You want to be dependable to your people, to everyone. And that static are being sacrificed. And that's if your stuff's not available, they can't hear it. Sometimes you got to feel your way through the dark, and I struggled all the way up into the minute. Peace, prosperity, and extreme wealth to all you guys.
This is Hindsight Radio. I represent it. The information station changing the nation.
Yo, what's up? Peace, prosperity, and extreme wealth to everyone listening tonight. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Truth Tuesday with your host, Akeem. I was kind of struggling today to think about what I wanted to talk to you guys about. But then it was something I wanted to talk about for a while about your right to private contract, your right to make a contract, and it is protected by the Constitution. Um, the big story these days is this Trump getting indicted or convicted of 34 counts of, I guess, they call it a hush money trial, but I guess it's bribery. Well, I got the case here. I was reading something from back last fall. It's a boring read, so if I decide to read this, y'all gonna have to bear with me. Some people might wonder how do a guy get convicted of something when he has attorneys who are doing everything for him. Like the attorneys draw up the contracts, they facilitate the agreement. Like when I read some of this, if I could read a lot of it, I don't want to put y'all to sleep because this legalese is boring, and I know it's going to fly over a lot of people's heads when I read it. But I'm going to read the outset of this case really quick. First, before I do that, I want to shout out to some people. Shout out to Corinne. Happy Tuesday, she says. Uh, I hope she put her link to her show that she does on Thursdays at 6 Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time, I believe. So put your link in there so people can go to your channel, Corinne. All right. I just try to promote people. So let me share my screen if I can. Let me make sure I close out because sometimes this thing don't share properly. Let me make sure I got the right thing I want to share up. Close that out. Make sure. Done. Give me a second. I'll be having a lot of windows open on my computer. And sometimes, okay, we're going to close this out. Close this out. There we go. All right, so let's share my screen. Yeah, it came right on up. Yay. You see all them windows I got up over there? That's actually a little bit of windows that I normally have up. But here it is. This was from back last year when he was trying to. There was a motion that he put forth to, I guess, to get rid of these indictments, but it didn't work. I knew it wasn't going to work because they trying to keep him from being president. Now, I do not endorse anybody. I don't endorse Trump. I don't endorse Biden. Y'all know that. I'm kind of in the middle. But I do like to talk about some things that seem strange. How does a guy get convicted of something he didn't even write the contracts? So let's read it. It says defendants' motions are decided as follows. On September 29, 2023, defendant Donald J. Trump, hereinafter defendant, filed omnibus motions seeking various forms of relief, including dismissal of the indictment on the grounds that the charges are legally defective and because of pre-indictment delay. Defendant also demands a more robust bill of particulars. The people respond. Y'all, let's look that up. What is a bill of particulars? What's that? Let's see what that is. I like to define stuff. I could kind of give you an idea, but I'm not gonna go off my own. Just give y'all off the top of my head. I said definition. That's not a definition. That's just giving me samples. Well, this might help right here. It said a bill of particulars is a written document in which a party has to explain the allegation in his or her complaint or petition in more detail. The respondent in a lawsuit might request a bill of particulars if the complaint has general allegations without getting into the specific details that would be necessary for the respondent to properly defend him herself in the case. In other words, a bill of particulars is a discovery tool that can be used by a respondent to figure out what the other party is claiming happened. Usually, requests for bill of particulars are sent out before depositions happen and before other forms of discovery so that the other party has a more complete sense of the allegations against him or her. If there is a complaint filed by one party and a counter complaint filed by the other party, both parties may request a bill of particulars against each other. This way, the parties can start to understand what the other side's theory of the case will be. In other words, what the party is trying to prove to the judge so that he can get the outcome and the relief he is looking for. Now, let me tell y'all something. This right here is very important into any case. And I'm going to, especially in an IRS case, especially in that case, because I have read hundreds of IRS complaints where they come after people for filing false tax returns, uh, mainly false tax returns. This is where it becomes key. Let me put my camera back on so y'all can see me. Give me a second. All right, where's my See, every time they do these updates, they my windows get weird. All right, I'm there we go. This is what I was looking for. All right, especially in the IRS case, because like there's one very recent one I was reading. They said several counts of filing a false tax return. They were saying, and they said how much the person got a refund for, if they got any. And they say that the returns are false. And then when I read thoroughly, this is why you have to train your mind to be very, uh, pay attention to every detail, especially in any, if you get in any kind of trouble. Because what law enforcement plays on is the ignorance of the defendants to get their wins. So in an IRS case, they'll say the tax return is false, but guess what's missing? What specifically about that return is false? And they'll say defendant filed several false tax returns from tax years this, blah, 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 and they received X amount of dollars due to these false tax returns. This is what the complaint says. Now, what's wrong with that picture? See, when you're when to the untrained mind, they said this is false, and they see the money. They know if you get this before a jury, all the jury is going to look at is how much money that person got, and if it's a substantial amount, it's not. That's impossible for someone to get that kind of money back. Uh, because they're average working people who make regular checks, and they might see 5,000, $6,000 on average tops refund if they ever get one. So if they see a refund in thousands of dollars, they're like that looks unreal to them. So they play on the ignorance of the jury who sees this and say, well, something's got to be wrong. First of all, they're saying it's wrong. And look at this amount. Something is wrong. So people start to presume, assume, and start to fill in the gaps themselves. And they will find somebody guilty just off of that. So this is where a bill of particulars will be very effective. Okay. See, if it was me, like if I had this issue and they said there was a false tax return, my bill of particulars said, okay, you're saying it's false tax return, and I would go line for line. Is line one true or false? Is line two true or false? Is line three? So if it's 300 lines, I'm asking them which one of these on this tax return is false. But see, in all of my years of looking at these different things and people who have been in any trouble, even when they've had educated attorneys, they never asked that question. They never asked that. There's only one man I see successfully win against the IRS, and he used to be an IRS agent, and they came after him and they said that he was the only one I saw that was successful and beat them at that game. And he was found not guilty. And guess what he did? He put in a bill of particulars and asked him line one, true or false. He didn't go into the whole spiel about how's line one explain this. And this is where some of y'all's wannabe lawyers get messed up. Y'all want to talk too much. Y'all want to explain too much. Law is precise and to the point. First of all, you got to remember these judges, all these courts, they're reading these legal documents every day. They skimming. They're not reading everything. They want you to basically tell them what's going on so they can get up to speed. And then they make a decision. But I see people putting books in their case, and right now, I know people right now, they're on the street. They've been fighting, didn't follow my spiritual advice on how to deal with them. And they followed all of these gurus that told them how to keep their house. But anyway, line one, true or false? Line two, true or false? And they have to answer that. They got to come back with a response. See, the biggest Achilles heels of the IRS is, first of all, they're a third party debt collector for the Treasury. So they are not part of any judicial branch of the government. They are a third party. They are a third party intervener hired by the United States and Congress assembled to collect and pursue, enforce the tax code. Now, they hire people who, a lot of them that do on a mid to lower levels, they're not even college educated to process your returns. And basically, a lot of these returns are handled by computers, AI. So, in order for them to say something is false, and this is the rules of evidence, someone has to come and testify and specifically state what about that return is false. What's line item? What's number that was put in there that's false? And do y'all know that all of the all of them, I'm not gonna say most of it, they never really say specifically what's wrong or what's false about the return. What happens, people due to all of the pressure, they give in, take plea deals, or they don't give in, they lose because they weren't precise enough in asking those specific questions. See, and this is another thing. I see a lot of people trying to go to battle with these entities and they're not even ready. They're not ready. So don't do anything you ain't ready to fight your way out of. Just stay on the sidelines and be an observer. But anyway, so we went over bill of particulars. So let's go back to the case itself. Let's go back. All right. Let's share the screen. Oh, that's the Constitution. That's not the. Oh, this is the case. All right, so I was at the bill of particulars. The people responded on November 9th, 2023. Defendant's reply was filed in November 21, 2023, and the people's, sir, reply on November 27, 2023, the people presented evidence to the grand jury that between August 2015 and December 2017, Michael Cohen, a lawyer who worked for the Trump organization, also held the role of defendant's special counsel, paid $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, also known as Stephanie Clifford, hereinafter Daniels. Prior to the 2016 presidential election, the payment was part of an agreement between defendant and Daniels, whereby Daniels agreed to not publicize information about a sexual encounter she had with the defendant. The defendant was concerned about the negative impact that information could have on the campaign for president of the United States. By way of background, on and about August 2015, defendant met with Cohen and David Pecker, then chairman and chief executive officer of America Media Incorporated, AMI. Defendant Cohen and Pecker came to an agreement that AMI would assist defendant with his campaign for president by alerting Cohen if any potentially negative story about the defendant was discovered so that a plan could be implemented to prevent its publication. Now, I'm still trying to figure out, I haven't read everything. Don't all of these people do that? Don't they all plan for the worst? And then they have agencies, agents on standby to take care of any collateral damage or any damages that may come their way. I mean, this seems like standard practice in the political arena to me. I mean, it's standard practice for any corporation to be on standby for any negative information that might be potentially harmful to them. So, okay, there's no crime here, I don't think. The agreement was communicated to Dylan Howard, then AMI's chief content officer and editor in chief of the National Enquirer. As agreed, on or about June 2016, Howard alerted Cohen about a woman named Karen McDougal, who alleged that she had an extramarital relationship with defendant. Defendant directed Cohen to purchase the information from McDougal to prevent the story's publication. Subsequently, AMI paid McDougal $150,000 with the understanding that defendant or the Trump organization would reimburse AMI. The payment to McDougal was recorded in AMI's books and records as a promotional expense and paid out of Pecker's AMI budget. This was vital in executing the plan to keep McDougal's information, as well as payment for said information out of the public's eye. So now here I would say, and I think some of the charges was falsifying business records, but Trump didn't falsify these records. They said AMI did. So how come AMI is not under scrutiny or whoever did that? We're the people that actually did the falsifying the records. And did Trump tell them to do that? Or they did that as part of their ongoing working relationship? Okay, we might find out. AMI paid the payment to McDougal was recorded in AMI's book as a promotional expense and paid out of Pecker's AMI budget. That there is, I would say, falsifying business records because that wasn't a promotion. I would substantiate if I was, a prosecutor. I was, and there was a law or statute that said you couldn't falsify business records. I would support that because that doesn't match. If this is true, that doesn't match what that was actually for. As well as payment for said information out of the public's eye. By keeping the payment in the president's budget, Pecker was able to avoid approval requirements that would have had the payment been accurately recorded. So yeah, this is to me a legitimate reason for bringing a case, but there's a lot of people involved here. By keeping the payment in the president, okay, people's opposition to defendants' omnibus motion hearing after people's opposition on page 4. Thereafter, defendant and Cohen discuss how the rights to the McDougal story could be purchased from AMI and how AMI would be paid. After the conversation and further discussion within Trump Organization, Chief Financial Officer Alan Weissenberg, Cohen created a shell company called Resolution Consultants LLC. That's a fitting name, Resolution Consultant. On or about September 30th, 2016, Cohen and Pecker came to the agreement that AMI would be paid $125,000 from Resolution Consultants LLC in exchange for the rights to McDougal's story. An invoice was created which described the payment as advisory services. Yeah, this is getting a little murky here, bro. On the other, on or about October 10th, 2016, Cohen spoke with Keith Davidson, then the attorney for Daniels, about Daniels' sexual encounter with defendant. At defendant's direction, Cohen and Davidson agreed that Daniels would keep the information about the encounter with defendant concealed out of the public's eye in exchange for $130,000. As with the McDougal agreement, Cohen discussed payment for the Daniels agreement with Weisselberg. After this discussion, Cohen agreed he would pay Ms. Daniels after confirming that defendant would reimburse him. To execute the transaction, Cohen opened a bank account in the name of Essential Consultants LLC. He transferred $131,000 on the account from his personal funds and then wired Davidson $130,000 from the Essential Consultants account. Yeah, this is starting to look funny because they opening up all these business accounts just to keep this woman quiet. You know, if I was in their shoes, I would not have done any of this way. Not, open up this because it's looking real bad. It is. I have my doubts, but the more I read this, see, this is why I see a lot of people who are Trump supporters. Oh, this is wrong and this and that. I'm about the truth. I am. I'm about. Let me put my um. I'm about getting at the truth, but I don't. I have my opinions, but I never read the case. This is why I reserved my opinions before I read facts. Now, considering this is before the trial. This has not been determined to be facts yet. They are facts now because he got convicted. So now it is a fact that he committed the crime because he's been convicted by a jury of his so-called peers, and I think that's not true. Because Trump's a billionaire, how can these regular folks be his peers? Um, so this, if how this is all arranged, how they're doing this, there are for one thing, this is at the time he was running for president, I believe. And there's very strict rules in how you're supposed to spend money. And you're supposed to record it, and you're supposed to keep accurate business records pertaining to your transactions as they come up. So far, I don't see any accurate, descriptions here. I see what what I see is a bunch of they opening up shell coughs just to funnel money so that the money doesn't look like it's coming directly from his campaign budget. Because if it came from his campaign budget, that was going to be a problem. Now you got to keep in mind when you're running for president, you can't be working for your corporations. So all of your money is scrutinized, what you're doing with it. So he couldn't just, okay, go to this account. He couldn't do that. So they came up with his lawyers who was supposed to be super smart. From way this looks, these lawyers weren't super smart. They were dumb as hell. There's dumbasses looking at this. This looks really ridiculous. If this is all true, which it has been proven to be true, because remember, Cohen was the first one to get charged with something, but he got charged with something about some contract, foreign contract, something way back. I remember I did a show on that as well. So Cohen ain't that bright, is in my opinion. Trump had the wrong lawyers on his team. He opened a bank account in the name of Essential Consultants LLC. He transferred 131,000 into the account from his personal funds and then wired Davidson 130,000 from the Essential Consultants account. Let me put back on the screen. On and about January 2017, defendant Weisselberg and Cohen agreed that Cohen will be paid a total of 420,000 to reimburse him for the payment to Daniels. So someone else paid, and then they funneled the money back to themselves. The total represented a 60,000 year in bonus to Cohen for his work at the Trump organization in 2016. The 130,000 payment he made to Daniels, a 50,000 payment to Cohen for expenses he claimed he incurred working on defendant's campaign, and an additional 180,000 to ensure Cohen was fully reimbursed after taxes. It was agreed that the 420,000 would be paid in installments on invoices Cohen would periodically send to defendant through the Trump organization for alleged legal services rendered. On you see, they say alleged. They're making a point of that. On or about February 2017, the defendant and Cohen met to formalize this arrangement. So he met with him. Oh, this is where he stuck his foot in the water. From February 2017 through December 2017, Cohen submitted invoices to Trump Organization as per the agreement with defendant. This included 11 invoices that were addressed to Weisselberg. The invoices were assigned a general ledger code and entered into the Trump Organization detailed general ledger. Checks were then generated and sent to Cohen. So all of this, what they call hush money, these payments were funneled, put on the books, and given codes. It's starting to look. See, that's why you can't be just listening to the news. That's why you can't be listening to people's opinion. You have to read this. See, I own a business, so I know that you put something on that book, it need to be exactly what you said it's for. It can't be any uh funny business. And she never worked for him. So in order to so they did everything. It's kind of form of a money laundering scheme too. But checks were then generated and sent to Cohen. The first check, which was signed by Weisselberg and Eric Trump, and the second check, which was signed by Weisselberg and Donald Trump Jr., were paid from Trump revocable. Wow. Paid from the Trump Revocable Trust. The remaining 9 checks were signed by the defendant and paid from his personal bank account. Mm. On March 30, 2023, the defendant was indicted by a grand jury on 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree in violation of Penal Law 175.10 hereinafter P&L. The invoices detail general ledger entries and checks from the basis of the 34 counts in the indictment. So let's look up this Penal Law. Hang on, I'm trying to highlight this. They won't let me highlight it. Penal Law 175. When I read this stuff, I want to read. I want to know what I'm reading. I want to know what I'm reading. Why, with the lawyers, I want to know. What does it says? So the law says a person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying business records in the second degree, and when his intent to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. See, this is all legalese, so they really convolute this one, right? It says a person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying business records in the second degree. So, in order for it to be a first degree, they have to falsify records in the second degree. And when his intent to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime or aid or conceal the commission thereof. So they're saying it's first degree because they falsified the business records and at the same time attempted to defraud and conceal another crime or aid or conceal the commission thereof. Now, I understand what this is saying, but what's the other crime that he was trying to conceal? So think about it. They hang on. Think about it. So the whole idea was to conceal. Okay, I see it now. I worked it out in my head. So this is what it was. They falsified the business records to conceal all of the shell corporations that created the trail to hide the trail of these payments. So that's the other crime, should be, I would say. That's the crime. Because I haven't gotten to the part where they said the actual her making that contract was a crime. What they're saying is the crime is, yeah, you paid her, okay, but what you did was you created all of these entities to hide that you paid her. Then you falsified the business records by saying that they were something else when it was really for the payment to her. I guess I'm close. I don't know. I'm like totally on point. Remember, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if I'm totally on point with that, but I think I'm in the ballpark with that one. I guess we got a Trump supporter in here. Somebody put a thumbs down. Somebody been purposely coming here for the last couple of shows doing that thumbs down. Hey, peace and blessings to you, hater. See, the haters, listen, sometimes haters are your biggest. You can profit off haters real good. Um, so let's go back to the case. I mean, so far, what I'm reading, there's some legitimate ish, there's some little bit these are some legitimate charges. They're legitimate. I know everybody who loved Trump was saying, "Oh, I just read one, Trump, they're getting him because they don't want to be elected." I believe that's true. I believe what they did was it's like you playing a game. Let's just playing, you're saying you hold your best card till you really need it. They probably knew that all of this stuff was a crime years ago. They let him. Remember, you can't. He's really hard to prosecute a sitting president, and they probably would have. They probably would. I don't think they would have brought these charges if he never had said he was going to run for president again. So they held their ace, and obviously they convinced the jury to convict him. Of course, people got their theories. They say, "Oh, they paid the jury off to make them convict him." You don't know that. I don't know that. That's just guessing. That's just assuming that that's true. I don't believe they did that. I believe his lawyers were not smart in how they handled this transaction, and it led to being a crime. You know? Somebody might disagree with me. That's fine. Disagree. Show me how I'm not seeing this right. So far, what I'm reading, this looks legitimate. Defendant moves to dismiss the indictment on the grounds that he was prejudiced as a result of alleged pre-indictment delay. In the alternative, defendant seeks a Singer hearing to determine whether the delay between the commission of the alleged crimes and his arrest violated his due process rights. People versus Singer. I'll probably let me make a note of that because usually when I'm kind of reading this off the fly without really, normally I would read these cases, then I would cross reference these other cases to see what they're talking about. But I'm gonna read this in my free time. I suggest you do too. People versus Singer. For the reasons set forth below, this branch of defendant's motion is denied. When considering pre indictment delay, a court must analyze five factors: the extent of the delay, the reason for the delay, the nature of underlying charges, the length of any pretrial incarceration, and whether there's any indication that the defense has been impaired. By the delay, People versus Tara Morich. I don't know if I pronounced that. People v. Wiggins. A single hearing can be denied at the discretion of the court when, among other factors, there is no showing of prejudice to the defendant and the court finds a sufficient basis for the delay. People v. Lopez. People v. McCullough. Defendant contends that the extent of the delay and the purported reasons favor dismissal. He argues that People's investigation, which began in and around 2018 and culminated with the March 30th, 2023 indictment, resulted in such a significant delay that it alone warrants dismissal. Defendant cites People v. Regar. A 4-year delay resulted in dismissal. Singer, a 42-month delay resulted in dismissal. Wiggins, a 6-year delay resulted in dismissal, and People v. Consort, 58, a 5-year delay resulted in dismissal. However, these cases are distinguishable. I think these cases are really good idea to read them to see what they're talking about because when I see people sitting in jail for years without going to trial, that's a significant delay, and it also violates your right to a speedy trial. So here's some ammo. The first two, Tara. Let me see. I can't really see that. Taranovich. Factors do not. Let me make this bigger so I can read this. Will it make me have me do it bigger? Where's the plus and minus? There we go. That's better. All right, let me find where I was. The first two, Taranovich, factors do not weigh in defendant's favor. In Reagan, the court observed that of the 4-year delay, 2 years were completely unexplained by the prosecutor. The court noted that it also took the people 7 months to obtain the defendant's DNA. A delay the court found difficult to accept because the prosecution was unable to offer the court a valid explanation for the majority of the 4-year delay. The Reagan court dismissed the indictment. Singers involved a defendant who committed 2 crimes at about the same time. He was arrested for one and not the other. Despite the police possessing evidence for both, Singer was in prison in 1970 for the one crime but not indicted on the second until 4 years later. The investigation had been dormant the entirety of the 4 years. In vacating the defendant's conviction and ordering a hearing on the reason for the delay, the single court held that it was impossible to determine what exactly was the explanation for the 4 years and that a hearing would assist in making that determination. So this Singer hearing, you can actually, if they're taking too long to bring this case to trial or bring it up for prosecution, they have to explain why and give a good reason. And of course, in these, they didn't have a good reason on why they delayed. In Wiggins, the defendant was arrested and incarcerated for 6 years before ultimately pleading guilty. The 6-year gap between arrest and plea included a 2.5-year delay while the people attempted to persuade another individual to cooperate and testify against the defendant. Coussart did not involve pre-indictment delay. Rather, defendant's contention was that the delay between the conviction and the appeal had been prejudiced. The Cusar court actually held that the defendant had been accorded a prompt and timely trial. He had careful examination of explanation for the delay provided by ADA Christopher Conroy in his affirmation made clear that the cases cited by the defendant are distinguishable. First, the people explained that the New York County District Attorney's Office, hereinafter Danny, investigated had to be paused shortly after it was started in 2018 because there was an active federal investigation involving Cohen, a key witness in the instant matter. So they got a reason why they delayed. That would be a good reason. The people submit that it is not unusual to pause an investigation to avoid interfering with another ongoing investigation, such as the one that federal authorities were conducting here. Christopher Conroy's affirmation in support of people's opposition to defendant's omnibus motion hereinafter Conroy affirmation, the people promptly reopened their investigation into the defendant once the federal matter concluded approximately a year later. Immediately after reopening the investigation, the people subpoenaed defendant's tax records from Mazars USA LLP, the accounting firm for defendant and the Trump organization, and the defendant attempted to block enforcement of the subpoena. Also, how did he do that? This resulted in prolonged litigation over the subpoena's enforcement. Although the people continued their investigation while the dispute unfolded, the litigation lasted over 17 months. So I can see where this is going. The delay happened mostly because he was trying to block that subpoena. You know, he had the other delay because it was an ongoing investigation. I mean, the more I haven't found anything yet, just in this small portion that says those charges were not legitimate. I'm sorry, Trump fans. I'm sorry. I am sorry. See, here's the thing. I'm not reading no more because I'm getting tired of reading it. And I know you're tired of listening. No purpose. Yes, we do have a right to contract, but we do not have a right to contract and then falsify records. See, I thought this was gonna go a whole other direction. I read this. I kind of had my mind made up thinking about but this is reading totally different, and I stand corrected. But I think on another note, this serves as a good example of you can't just listen to what you hear, what people's opinions are. Even news on both sides was giving out bad information. When you read all of this in its entirety, you're probably going to get worse as I keep reading. I suspect that's the tone of this. If all of this stuff is true, just the part that I read, just those parts are true, there was a crime. There was. There was. I was confused. How did they take a guy to jail for making a private contract? And somebody accept they signed it, got the money, but this is more than just getting the money. This is really how the money flowed. And although Trump endorsed all of this, he didn't write these paperwork. He didn't come up with the ideas. He just supported these ideas. But since he is in charge, that's how you go after him. But here's the crazy part. All of this stuff was done through entities, paid out through his trust. But see, did y'all see he did a revocable trust? Now, what would happen if it was an irrevocable trust? Because that's a person by itself. But because it came out of his personal revocable trust. Remember what I told y'all about revocable trust, right? Any position that you hold on a revocable trust, whatever happens, you are liable. But if it's an irrevocable trust, that's the entity. that has to deal with that. And possibly the trustee, depending on his dealings. So someone had to pay that money, so out of the trust, so it had to be a trustee. So the trustee should be in trouble as well, unless Trump was a trustee, which I doubt it. I doubt it very seriously. Hey, but it's about 14 y'all on. Y'all, I mean, how come I only got 4 likes? Y'all don't like what I'm reading? So, based on this, this is real interest. I want to read all of this, but I just don't want to read it anymore on air. And I'm going to read the rest of this because this is a long read. Let's see. It's 30 pages. So I only read 5. That's about an hour's worth, almost an hour's worth of reading. Wow, I didn't realize that. All right. So before I go, I got to give y'all my spill before I go. Leave y'all with something to think about. Remember Sunday when I did the show, I said, this is my direct quote. This came off out of my own consciousness. And I said it several times. And I'm going to say it again because I believe that you need to hear this. Whenever, whenever you believe someone else is the problem, you are the problem. Whenever you think something outside of you is at fault, you are at fault. Why? Because you create your reality. You are drawing in all of these experiences to yourself. Yes, they coming by way of people, things, and situations, but you're the operator. You're the secret operator. You're the one. So, like, if I have a bad relationship, that's my fault because I attracted that person into my life. And whatever I experience with that person, it's on me because I decided to get involved with that person. So when I contract with that person to be involved, I contract with every problem that they have or good thing that they have. I contract with that. See, once you start to realize it on that level, you can deal with your issues a lot easier. You know what? I contracted with this person to be involved with them, and now they bringing all this mess and drama into my life. So therefore, I brought it into my life because I invited them into my space. And now I'm seeing all this crazy stuff that I don't like. What do I do? Accept responsibility and remove it. Take it out. Get rid of it. Walk away. That's how you fix it. Accept. Bring your problems before the altar and repent of your sins. And the sin of allowing that nonsense into your space. Now, this doesn't mean you go on and judge this person. And remember, people are operating off the way they were brought up, the experiences. So some of the stuff that people do, they don't even know it's bad. They're so used to doing it, it's just normal. It's their normal way of operating. To you, it's not normal because you didn't come from that background. So what I'm saying is accept responsibility for all your experiences and learn from them and learn how you can improve. This is how we improve by accepting and not placing blame somewhere else. That's how we grow. Once we take responsibility, the Bible calls it repenting. See, a lot of people want to go to the altar and say, I need to forgive folks for doing me wrong. Don't y'all remember that? Like you go to church and everybody's up there. I just need to learn forgiveness. Like everybody's a damn victim. Everybody's doing them wrong. And they give testimonies. Yeah, I survived this person doing this, and this did this, and this did that. Such a selfish point of view because all they're looking at is what people have done to them and not looking at what they have done to themselves. No, I can't handle that. I can't handle that. I did this to myself. It's them. It's that. It's they. That's it. It's never at the seat of where it really originated from. So you can't walk around saying that you're a child of God and that you are this divine being, and then when problems hit you, all of a sudden you state, no, Divinity means that you take responsibility. That's divinity. You take responsibility for those negative things that that's what makes you divine. You own it. See, it's not divine to be a coward and not take responsibility. See, people go through life suffering for a long time simply because they don't want to own up. And they keep getting those experience played back to them over and over again until they get it. And some people don't get it. They take that stuff to their grave. But you remember what I told you? It's life after life. You're gonna come back in and get it right. Y'all do realize I've said this many times. You're here again because you didn't get something right. You're here to experience something so that you can get it right. Yeah, yeah. You might have been here many lifetimes. Yeah. That's where them dreams are coming from. Yeah, you dreaming of them past experiences. They coming back through the consciousness. They breaking the veil of this consciousness, this experience. And you go to sleep like, what is this? Why am I dreaming about that? See, scientists haven't fully figured out where dreams come from. Some of those dreams are coming from your past experiences. That's why you see people in those dreams that I've never met this person before. Yes, you have in another lifetime. And that dream is coming back to you because something in that dream needs to be worked out. I know them dreams be sounding weird, looking weird, and all kind of crazy stuff, but they all have meaning. Everything has a purpose. Everything has its purpose, whether it's big or small. Everything, the dreams, they have a purpose. They have a message. And let me tell y'all something about these dreams you guys are having. Maybe some of y'all want to call them visions or epiphanies, whatever. Stop telling people what your dreams are. Stop telling them what your visions are, because they see those visions and those manifestations in your consciousness is strictly for you. Remember, it's encoded in the Bible. Go to him in your secret place. Going to the secret place and praying ain't mean just mean walking into a closet or some secret room and praying to God for answers. That secret place is when you lay down and you rest. That's the secret place, too. Because that's where all the answers are coming in. There's many secret places you go. But the secret place is your thoughts. Retreating back into the depth of your consciousness and looking for answers. Stop looking to the clouds and looking out there and over there and at this church and at this temple, at this mosque and these places that they call places of God. There's only one place, there's only one true place where God resides. And Christ told you when he said, I will tear this temple down and rebuild it in 3 days. He was talking about himself, him being a temple and then being raised from the dead in 3 days. And what was actually raised? What was actually raised? They showed you what was raised, his consciousness. Because the first thing Mary and Mary found was the apparition of him. The consciousness was raised. Man, see, I was talking about Cohen and Trump, and now I'm telling you about your consciousness. So, the only way to true progress, the true elevation of anything in your life is to take responsibility and stop rebelling against what's happening in that moment that you don't agree with and accept it. Repent of your ways, repent of your rebelling of that situation, accept it as what it is. Once you accept that, you will see clarity on how to work it all out. And like I said, everything is fixable and simple. It's only complicated because somewhere in there you are rebelling against that situation. That's what makes it complicated. Complicated because you're conflicted. Whenever there's confliction, there's something not true. There's something you're not accepting. And with that being said, peace, prosperity, and extreme wealth to everyone. Y'all have a good night. Peace, prosperity, and extreme wealth to all you guys.
This is Hindsight Radio. I represent it. The information station changing the nation.